Some interesting comments from Aaron Murray. Got to get Aaron on the show here one of these days. Here's what he said: "Quit bitching and moaning about Stetson Bennett." Here's the full quote. Listen, man. I don't know why Aaron couldn't have been a little more relaxed during his time when we were covering him. Now usually the correct, he's saying the correct thing too. He says, and this was on. By the way, this was on. Greg McElroy's Always College Football podcast. Aaron says, enough with the bitching and moaning for Stetson. Even if he comes out here and is just good enough for good enough through the first one or two games, just be patient, enjoy yourself. Give the man slack for goodness sake. He is a tremendous leader both on and off the field. I'm super excited about his season. It would not surprise me if Stetson was the guy at the end of the season throwing anywhere from 30 to 35 touchdowns, along with 5 interceptions and maybe 5 rushing touchdowns as well. When you take a look at Stetson from a season ago, I mean, getting to 35, that's not going to be that hard. Getting to 30, he would only have to throw one more touchdown, so that's not a stretch by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he would have to get down to 5 interceptions from 7 a season ago. I was talking with, I can't remember who I was talking with, but anyway, the discussion of could Stetson get to 3,500 yards be possible? I don't think that's out of the question at all. I mean, he had 2,800 a season ago, so knocking on the door of 3,000, and he is poised to be in really good position in 2022 to have a very long, a very successful year in terms of statistical stuff. But I think the part that Aaron is talking about that is probably more speaking to people more, I guess you could say, is the complaining about Stetson. Now, Aaron should know, and perhaps he's forgotten now in his older age about what it's like to be the quarterback at Georgia. I think he still has scars. No, I know he still has scars, legitimate ones, as well as uh, whatever the other term is, literal ones and figurative ones. This is a guy who survived. This is a guy who had eggs thrown at his house. There was all sorts of stuff that Aaron Murray went through as the quarterback at Georgia that was unnecessary, and that was in 2012, and 13. Now in 2022, you're talking about a whole different landscape of social media. There's, Georgia's. I mean, it's not that hard to say this, but Georgia's more important now than it was even in 2012. And in 2012, it was one of the biggest brands in college football. Now, I would argue it's one of the top three. I mean, you got Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia, maybe Notre Dame, but other than that, there are not that many. Well, I look, I track this. There are not many brands bigger than Georgia, and they just have a huge audience. So people who are you know watching, paying attention, whatever you want to call it, to Georgia, there are more of those people now than ever before. And Stetson's ascension to the starting quarterback of the national champions is a story the likes of which we will probably never see again in college football. I just don't see how that will happen. But that story masks, in many ways, the success that he's had on the field. There are so many people that were eager to get JT Daniels back in there, which, I mean, I get that. But after a while, it was like, man, this guy is really balling out. So I guess Aaron still hears it a lot. I don't know. Aaron has not lived in message board world or Twitter world for the last 20 years like some of us. And this is just sort of part of Georgia fandom is there's going to, well, it's not exclusive to Georgia, but just complaining about the quarterback. It is what it is. Stetson did not make the cover of DAWGSTRUCTION, but you can still own this commemorative edition of Georgia's 2021 season. Hopefully, we'll be doing a 2022 one of these, or 2023. This pass right here to Arian Smith was one of the best passes Stetson had that season. But the one that people behind the scenes talk about a lot, I don't have it in the book, was the throw to Kyrus Jackson in Jacksonville. That throw, that was the worst game that Stetson played in 22. And that throw was one of the best throws he made, though. But here's another shot of Jordan Davis, Georgia legend, Jordan Davis, needless to say. You're not going to get this sort of stuff anywhere else from anybody else. It's not happening. These books are outstanding. If I do say so myself, make sure you're picking it up for yourself soon. The link is down below. Click it today. But with Stetson, for me, it was a progression, of course. He didn't do a lot in the Arkansas game. The Auburn game, that was the best game he had played up until that point of his career, and he really played well against Auburn. He wasn't trying to be a hero anymore. He was just doing the job. He was just playing quarterback. And you move forward. He played well against Kentucky, did not play well against Florida. But by the time the Tennessee game came around, that to me, that game solidified it. I didn't think there was any going back at that point. And you know, when you're on the field, you get to hear things. I don't repeat them typically. You hear things, you see things that television doesn't show. You can look at the guys who are on the bench, see their mannerisms. It's something that most fans don't get to see. It is, if you're in a press box, you certainly can't see it. So my perspective on things is different than most people that do what I do for a living. It's not different than most of them. It's different than all of them. Perhaps with the exception of Roddy. Perhaps with the exception of Roddy. But you see things, hear things, you get a feel for things that you don't, that everybody else doesn't. And at Tennessee and Neyland, after he made that play, Stetson, where he juked out the defender and scored a touchdown, it was like, to me, after that game, there was just no going back. He was playing too well. They were too tuned in. He provided dimension that JT Daniels could not, and they weren't missing JT Daniels at that point. So Aaron's general comment here: enough with the bitching and moaning. Two comments. Aaron, you may or may not be watching this. One, brother, this is what it is, man. I mean, people, this is Georgia fans. They're gonna bitch. They're gonna moan. Doesn't make them right. It is in the blood. It is in the ethos. If you're a Chicago Cubs fan, you are watching Harry Carey drinking Budweiser in the summer in the afternoon. It's just what it is. With Georgia, the complaining has to happen. They have Larry Munson as part of their DNA. Number two, you're right. I mean, you're just right. I mean, like, the complaining, I don't know if I hear it as much as I once did, but the complaining, it is overdone. I mean, this, we can talk about the 21 national championship, and we can talk about how the defense was an elite group, a generational, if not historic, group of football players that led to 15 players on that team being drafted in the NFL draft. But Georgia doesn't win the national championship without that defense. I don't think they do. But anyway, they don't win the national championship without Stetson either. I'm sorry if that hurts feelings. I can't say that as a fact. We don't know that, right? That's my opinion, and I'm pretty strong about it. That he did in that game. He won them that game at the end. That was not the defense, y'all. I mean, it's a team sport, so you get both. But when he made that mistake, he flew them down the field with his arm. The last touchdown of the game was the Keely Ringo touchdown. No doubt. That's what this image is. The 2 touchdowns before that were passes from Stetson Bennett. Okay? I don't care. It doesn't matter to me who the quarterback at Georgia is. I was a big fan of Aaron Murray when he was the quarterback. I've talked about this a lot. When, Georgia was coming down the field in 2012, I which way are they going? Okay, I'm going to that end zone because I knew where they were, what was going to happen. You got that way with Stetson in this offense too, and honestly, it was the same way with JT at times, with the exception of the Peach Bowl. Okay, that was a real fight, but I think to me, the story of Stetson has given the story, the complaining, uh, has papered over what was one of the best seasons from a Georgia quarterback in history of the school, and one of the better performances from a quarterback in a national championship game that we've seen in a while. Um, that was because of everything that was around him and surrounding him. But you know, uh, he outplayed Bryce Young. I mean, I don't know if that counts. He played better than Trevor Lawrence did in 2019. I don't know that he played better than Justin Fields. I cannot recall the 2020 national championship game, but he left with the trophy. And Stetson's not perfect, and you will hear from me criticism when criticism is there to be had. And perhaps we are overdoing the complaining about the complaining. I don't know. But I do know this. No one, there are 2 quarterbacks that are alive who can polish a national championship trophy that they won while playing in Silver Britches, and that's Buck and Stetson, and that's it. And one was dramatically more important than the other in the national championship game at which they played. I will let you figure out which one that was. There is going to come a time when Stetson is appreciated more. Aaron should know this too. It's when you leave. I remember the night very clearly, and it was a cold one when Aaron had his last snap in Sanford Stadium, when he had his last snap as a Georgia Bulldog. And Aaron was always and continues to be a very happy person, generally speaking. But that was a very, very sad night. Joe Cox, his last night as a quarterback at Georgia, well, in Sanford, that was an extremely sad night. These moments are etched in my brain. I don't know when Stetson's last moment in Sanford will be, but I hope it's not sad the way that those 2 guys dealt with their sadness. Uh, Aaron, uh, Joe with losing to Kentucky, just in a sort of a shocking result that night, and then for Aaron being taken out of the game and heading to a hospital because of an injury. So life happens and you move on. But I think Aaron's right about this. But we're not that far from when people really can legitimately complain about Stetson. We'll see when that happens and if it happens. Hey, make sure you're watching us in the near future. Pick up the book down below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the website.